Hi there, welcome to episode 3 of the Meadows Fireside video series, and today we're going to talk about joints, which is probably one of the most confusing and complex topics out there. I think we've got, oh god, probably something like 350 joint supplements on the market. It's just completely crazy. Of course, every one is the best. You got to have this combination of ingredients, or you got to have it delivered in this way. And trying to, figure out a way through this maelstrom of products is a challenge, to say the least. So what we're going to start with, though, is we're actually just going to work on trying to understand what's going on in the joint. So I'm going to be putting some images on the screen and trying to explain, what all that means. And in a subsequent video, we'll talk about some of the ingredients. We'll do glucosamine, we'll do chondroitin, we'll do hyaluronic acid, we'll do MSM. I'll touch on a couple of the other sort of, I suppose you'd call them perimeter ingredients that are out there. And hopefully, at the end of what will probably be perhaps 3 or 4 videos, you'll have I'm hoping, a much better idea of what's important, what's not important, and some kind of a pathway, for you to be able to make a good decision if you decide you want to put your horse on a horse supplement. So, starting off with, on your screen now, is a picture of a hock. And basically, that's a healthy hock. And the blue lines are the cartilage tissue. The kind of, I don't know what color you'd call that, sort of beigey lines that are encompassing the gold synovial fluid. That's the synovial membrane. And so basically, what we want with a healthy joint is we want nice viscous synovial fluid, which is acting as a barrier between the 2 layers of cartilage. And obviously we want to have nutrition being delivered through the synoviocytes, which are these cells that live in the synovial membrane, and they provide not only the hyaluronic acid to the synovial fluid, and then the synovial fluid subsequently provides nourishment to the cartilage tissue where the chondrocytes live. And I don't really want to get too technical about this. I'll get confused, but I just kind of wanted to show you okay, here's a healthy joint. That's what it should look like. Now, obviously, circumstances, whether it's aging of a horse or the kind of riding that you're doing, or perhaps some kind of injury, all of those things can trigger, problems in the horse's joint. And one of the first signs of that, obviously, is, some stiffness. Sometimes we'll see fluid around the joints. We call those wind puffs sometimes, where the viscosity of the joint fluid has broken down and the fluid started to leak out of the joint. Now, coming up on the screen next is a picture of an inflamed joint. And what you can see here is that, so we've got excessive synovial fluid in the joint cavity. We've got inflamed tissue. And what actually happens is that these inflammatory ingredients penetrate into the synovial fluid, and they'll start to break down the viscosity of the joint fluid. And you can see here that these inflammatory mediators, they call, there's leukocytes and all kinds of things like that break into the joint, and then the body reacts by sending white blood cells to try to combat the inflammation. So that's basically sort of how the process starts. And joint disease in horses is a sort of a process of microscopic breakdown over a period of time. And obviously what we're trying to do with joint supplements is to try to help support the body's ability to provide the nutrition that the joint needs, to make everything work correctly. Now, if we go on to the slide now, where I've got a breakdown of the cartilage tissue itself. So cartilage is composed of 3 elements. It's 70% water, it's 15% type 2 collagen, and it's 15% what are called proteoglycans, and I'll have a blow up of that in a few minutes for you to have a look at. But basically, this acts as this cushioning effect, and within the cartilage tissue live these cells called chondrocytes, which produce more hyaluronic acid and chondroitin sulfate. The proteoglycans, which I'll now move onto the screen, kind of got a blow up of that, are these bottle brush shaped molecules that trap water. And so it's the water that creates the cushioning effect, and they're composed primarily of hyaluronic acid and chondroitin sulfate. And the one thing that I'd like you to pay attention to with that picture is you see the hyaluronic acid molecule, which runs the entire sort of spine of the proteoglycan. That's going to be sort of significant as we go forward because of the size of the hyaluronic acid molecule, and we're going to be touching on that when I talk about hyaluronic acid when it comes to bioavailability and things like that. Now, obviously, you know, that was a very quick rendition of the joint, but basically, again, most people, if they're in some kind of a performance riding discipline, are at some time or another, they're going to run into some kind of issue with the horse's joints. And we believe strongly that a well-designed joint supplement can really help, not only in supporting the body's ability in the first place to protect itself. I'm a huge proponent of what I suppose you'd call prophylactic feeding of joint supplements, i.e., if I'm a dressage rider or I'm a reining rider, I know I'm going to be, putting my horse through some pretty punishing disciplines consistently. I'd like to feed a joint supplement on a preventative basis, much like we feed supplements to ourselves. We generally tend to take supplements, to hopefully reduce the risk of problems occurring with our health versus trying more of a reactive treatment. Oh, my horse has got a problem, now I need to fix it. So I hope that's a good, just sort of basic grounding in the joint, how it works. And on the next episode, we'll start getting into some of the ingredients that are in so many of these different joint supplements. We can talk about some of their characteristics and things like that. So I hope this is informative for you on this occasion, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next video. Bye.